You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
Hey, it's me again. Did you miss me? Where have we been? I don't know. We've been lost in the fog of Halloween events, not Scary Farm, and I went out to Sinister Point even, thanks to my good friend Hendel. And last night we went to Ghost Train, thanks to Gary Baker. What a great time at both events. Both completely different. Look for review episodes on those soon that we'll run next year we'll run them this year, obviously, but we'll run them next year for promotional purposes for those great events. It's just been a long Halloween season. I mean, it just seems to get longer and longer every year. And sometimes I sit down and do a show and I'm just completely exhausted. I mean, you have to just drain. And I feel for the monsters who are working harder than I am. The monsters who are out there scaring and, you know, the backbone of the event, and the behind the scenes folks who work so hard. And if they work hard enough, you don't even notice that they're there. So there is a huge team that puts on these events, both front of house, back of house, people you don't see, people you do see. And it does take tremendous effort. So we have utmost respect for people who make it happen, you know. And it's funny, somebody asked me the other day, do you get to see all the other events? And I'm like, no, you know, I sometimes make it out. Like this year, doing two was great, Sinister Point and Ghost Train at Griffith Park. But for the most part, I'm at Scary Farm. It's a lifestyle choice. We live there. And the thing is sometimes I will leave and see my boss there, and when I come back, he has not left. And that's dedication, folks. And he's not the only one. There are a lot of people like that. And I remember putting together Trapped and Possessed, practically living on farm. And it's in your blood. You know what I mean? Wanting to create. You know, I was just watching a movie just now, a movie I really enjoy called, you know, have you ever seen Heat? Great movie. Michael Mann, 1995. But I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I could sit and just watch this movie because it's nearly 3 hours, but I should probably stop it and go and put an episode in the can. And I'd like to get a supply of episodes in the can so I can release them at my leisure. And big thanks to Zach, my good friend Zach, who is an audio genius. He's the guy that recorded and put up the Comic-Con Back to the Future panel we just did. Zach helped me move the show to Libsyn. And what's great about Libsyn is the storage rolls over so that you can save it. So the one I was on before had a predetermined amount of storage that you could put. So I could store about 15, 17 episodes, something like that. So Libsyn lets you store a bunch for the month, and then at the end of the month, it starts over, but the ones that you put up stay there. So eventually, a long time from now, all of the episodes will be up and available at any time you want. So big thanks to Zach for helping me do that. He is a great guy. He works so hard and is always running different podcasts and helping folks with audio. And that's a selfless thing to do to help somebody else. The other audio guy I was working with was Anthony for the Gemmer shows, and he was just as good. And I have utmost respect for people who can do that, because I can't do it. I can sit and talk in this mic all day, but at the end of the day, if the audio is screwed up, Zach's my only hope. Anthony was my only hope on the Gemmer shows. So salute to the audio guys. If they do their job right, you don't even know they've been there. So, as you can tell by the title of this episode, we are returning to the Pixar universe for episode 3 of my look at the films of Pixar. And up until now, it's been a pretty good run. Cars was a slip in quality as far as story, still looked gorgeous. And that's the thing with with all of these Pixar movies. They look gorgeous. But it has to be, it can't just be beautiful. It has to have substance. It has to have a story. It has to have something to hang your hat on. Ratatouille, we ended with, was a fantastic film. I was really in awe of Brad Bird being able to take over that film and fix it, because I know it was in trouble for a while, and actually make a coherent film. And again, like I said the last one, if you can buy the rat pulling the guy's hair and making his arms move, the rest of the movie is fantastic. It's the only leap in logic you have to take. And it's a tough one, because that's not how the human body works. You can't just pull someone's hair and make them move like a marionette. But these are cartoons. I totally get that. It's a talking rat who likes food and flavor combinations. So there is a suspension of disbelief that we're willing to give these films. That's okay. That's great. That's how all the great movies are born out of. The audience saying, look, I'm going to buy into this universe. You set the rules. You create the story, and I'll be the willing passenger on your journey. The next film we're going to talk about is WALL-E. Now, WALL-E we had huge hopes for in the Tucker family. This was Austin's film, man. At the time, he was 8 years old. WALL-E came along when he was into space toys and robots and everything WALL-E represented, man. We had nearly every WALL-E toy you can imagine, except for the big Ultimate WALL-E that was like $200 or something. But he had every kind of little WALL-E. They made little flat WALL-E toys that looked like cupcake toppers. They had WALL-Es that turned into cubes and WALL-Es that were rolling around with Eve. He loved the character of Mo, who's like I think he's a floor polisher or something. I don't know. And we counted down the days until WALL-E premiered in theaters. We went opening day. We couldn't have been more excited. After the film, the kids were still excited for the movie. But for me, WALL-E is a disappointment. It was the first real failure for me for Pixar. And that's because it just inherently has problems. A lot of it doesn't make any sense. WALL-E tells the story of a cleaner robot who has been on Earth for hundreds of years, cleaning up the mess that we've made and putting trash into cubes and then stacking those cubes. Now, all of these little robots were left on Earth by the By and Large company. The humans left on a big ship and will return once Earth is able to grow crops again. That's the conceit of the film. This is maybe the first kids movie to really address the global warming thing. It's pretty heavy-handed. I mean, Earth is a real crap hole in it. It's trash everywhere, and you have to ask yourself, what were the humans doing? Were they just throwing litter everywhere? And you see the amount of litter. Were they creating more litter than they could possibly keep up with? I guess. I don't know. But the thing so WALL-E has been on Earth so long. He's the last one there. He's the only inhabitant on the Earth. It's like he's the little prince. And because he's been alive so long, he has gained his own personality. So he has a little pet cockroach, and he collects bits and pieces of humanity, which he takes back to his big trailer and collects and keeps, things that interest him. And we get the history of what happened to humanity through live action video played by Fred Willard in the first human to appear in a Pixar film alongside scenes from Hello, Dolly. The first half of WALL-E is a masterpiece. No denying it. The scenes on Earth are staggeringly amazing. All of the detail. The robot Eve, I mean, that's not subtle at all. That Eve would be the first female to come back to Earth, making WALL-E Adam in some respect, right? Even though they're not human. Eve has been sent to detect any kind of plant work that is arised from the planet and report back to the humans that Earth is ready to go. So she's like a probe droid. And WALL-E, because he's sentient, falls in love with her. It's the first robot he's ever seen active. And WALL-E's not a sentimental guy when it comes to robots, because we watch him throughout the film rip parts off of other robots to repair himself, which is kind of ghoulish when you consider if he's sentient, he has no qualms about ripping the bones and flesh of the other robots to use on himself, which I get. He has to survive. He falls in love with Eve, who is unsure of what this is. She has a mission. Her mission is plant. And there's no dialogue between WALL-E and Eve except chirps and the weird way WALL-E talks, which was done by Ben Burt, who did all the sound effects on Star Wars, most notably, in this respect, R2-D2. So when plant life is discovered and Eve takes it into her chamber, an alert goes back to the humans. And this is, to me, this is where the film falls apart. We finally meet the humans and their big fat blobs who consume all day, both entertainment and food. They're told what to like and how to live. And they're on a big pleasure cruise forever. And it's not a very flattering look at humans. They're perceived as very dumb. And yeah, if you look at the way we're going now, that's probably what we're going to end up. A bunch of idiots who journey through the stars without a care in the world, not seeing the beauty in anything except the next meal or the next TV program. There's a captain to the ship, played by Jeff Garlin from the Goldbergs. And then the ship itself is played by Sigourney Weaver. And the ship does not want to go back to Earth. I don't remember the plot machinations of why the ship doesn't want to go back to Earth. But the ship is actively sabotaging the humans ever going back to Earth. So it's up to WALL-E and Eve to journey to the humans to show proof that the plant life has returned to Earth, that Earth can now sustain life again, that all the pollution is gone, and there's a madcap chase between other robots, and they're battling the evil ship itself, and then the fat humans, and we're gonna hear this word a lot on this episode: tone. The second half of WALL-E, the tone doesn't match the first half. The first half is very introspective. It's very beautiful. Even though it's trash, it's beautiful. We're led on this journey of sounds and music and emotion. And then the second half is just a stupid chase with these blobby humanoids. And at the end of the film, there's a chance to redeem the film itself and have WALL-E either die or revert back to his original cube-making program. And instead they go the E.T. route of he's out of the picture for a few seconds and then he comes back and everybody cheers. And had they left WALL-E in his robot state and just pulled back on the bleakness of the one robot that saved humanity has now lost his humanity, that would have been a message. I get it. They're not going to do it in these perceived kids' cartoons. I get it. But it doesn't make it any easier to see a film so close to greatness and redeeming the stupid, blobby human chase sequences and then not follow through. We knew they weren't going to kill E.T. at the end of E.T. We knew that. Wall-E, we don't know. We have no idea. He's a robot. And they didn't kill him. They just took away his personality. And it could have been very bleak. Like the end of AI, where the robot kid is staring at the blue fairy forever. And he never gets to see the blue fairy or talk to the blue fairy or have any kind of resolution. And the camera pulls back and you're like, it's going to end. And that's going to be so bleak and so amazing that they would do that. And then it doesn't. Then these weird robots show up and the robot gets a day with his mom and whatever. It's a mess. The AI at the end is a mess. And Wall-E could have just taken that leap. And instead, it's a happy ending. The humans are back. What's going to change? Have they learned any lessons? The humans didn't spend their time on that ship bettering themselves. They spent that time fattening up and consuming. So that's weird. But hey, I didn't write it. I got nothing to do with it. I'm just giving you my take on it. You know, as a father who took his kids to see all these movies. Okay, so the next one is probably where we're going to lose most of the audience here. This is a beloved film. I've never met anybody who didn't like Up. Up is perceived as a masterpiece. I remember seeing the trailers for it and thinking, this is going to be Pixar's first big bomb. This is the one. The trailers were nonsensical. It's an old man and a young boy and a flying house. And when I saw the movie, listen, folks, I'm human. Of course I'm human. Of course, the first 15 minutes of Up are amazing. That story of them meeting, falling in love, getting married, getting jobs, finding out she can't have children, and then her dying, that's an amazing story. That's the story I actually want to see in a full-length movie. And then end it with Carl and the house floating off into the sky. And let us decide, is the house really floating off into the sky? Or is Carl just dying and he's finally going to meet Ellie up in the sky? That's a movie. That's an amazing movie. Instead, Up becomes a complete mess of a movie. What a this might be. Up has almost as big a shift in tone as From Dusk Till Dawn. Remember, From Dusk Till Dawn is a crime movie, and then in one swift motion, it's a vampire movie. And if you missed the transition, you might assume you're in the wrong film had you gone to the bathroom or to get popcorn. Now, Up features the same characters, but what a turn it makes. It was written by Pete Docter and Bob Peterson and Tom McCarthy. And I have no desire to watch this movie again. I don't understand the appeal of it other than the first part. Because after that, it's a mess. This is a movie about love and loss and longing and emptiness. But it's also a movie about a giant 7-foot-tall bird that has eluded capture for decades from a man who lives in a blimp and employs talking dogs. Any one of those derails this movie. But add them all together and I don't even know what he couldn't catch that bird. Our heroes catch it within 5 minutes of landing there. It's not even enough. The bird comes to them. The other guy's been looking for the bird forever. Is it the same bird? Is it an old bird? Is it the bird's grandchildren? We don't know. All we know is that the evil guy, nobody believes him because he can't capture the bird, even though he's got a team of trained attack dogs who can sniff and hunt and fly a plane. When I lay it out like that, it seems ridiculous because it is. I want to love these movies. I'm very honest about every time I go to the movies, when the lights dim, I'm ready to fall in love all over again. Show me a great story. Up does, and then it stops, and all of a sudden, we're attached to a floating house, walking through the jungle. We're anchoring. The two human bodies are anchoring the house to the ground. Maybe I get that wrong. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will correct me. And then they find a bird. And then they find Doug the talking dog. And then the other dogs talk. And then there's an aerial dogfight. Dogfight. Oh, there's a dogfight with the dogs in the plains. And then Russell doesn't have a father. I mean, it's very strange. It weaves around tonally like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, from one extreme to the next, from the silliness of the dog with the squeaky voice to Russell has no father figure, to Carl hitting a guy and drawing blood. So I don't own Up. I don't care to ever see it again. I see cosplays of it and I'm just like, that's great, man. Another Up cosplay. Another person dressed as a house with balloons coming out of the chimney. Up was the first film from Pixar not to have a full toy line. Because even Ratatouille had a toy line. Up was the first film not to have any toys. They asked, what's his name? John Lasseter, where the toys were. And he said, not every movie is about merchandise. And I'm happy about that. I mean, they did make a few collector items of some of the characters. And then some plush. But for the most part, like, you can't reenact the dog fight at home of the dogs flying the plane. And even then, like, the dogs are trained to be sentient. They talk and understand every human word and then can relay it back in dog form. And yet, they're still waylaid by squirrels. And that's cute and all. That's fun. If the movie hadn't opened with the most depressing opening ever. But Jeff, it has to get lighter. No. The tone is set at the beginning. What kind of movie are we watching? Oh, we're watching a dreary movie about a guy winding his life down and having one last adventure. Oh, cool. Except the adventure is about talking animals. And a bird that's so tall and colorful it can never be caught. You could catch that bird in 5 seconds. I mean, he's floating above the jungle. All they have to do is look down and anything blue, catch it. All right. I've probably pissed everybody off by trashing Up. What can you do? The show is honest. The next release, Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 is a masterpiece. I know it has its detractors because it dared to not actually end the toy's life, but that's, to me, that's what toys are. You have them, they are your friends. My friends growing up were Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo. When I got older, I put them in a box in the garage. And then I had kids, and I gave them to my kids, and I watched my kids play with these Star Wars toys their entire childhood. So that's the circle of toy life. So that movie really resonated with me. It has a lot of very clever stuff. The only thing that's jarring about Toy Story 3 is the leaps in technology that the animation takes and how startlingly different the characters look in this one versus 1 and 2. But that's forgivable because you want them to look as best they can. Buzz Lightyear and Woody take their place in not only the animated feature Hall of Fame, but the character Hall of Fame, regardless of medium. They're fully realized, real characters. The world that they inhabit has defined rules that are never broken, except like when they come to life and save themselves from Sid. Toy Story 3 is fantastic. We went and saw it up at the El Capitan. The whole family went. What a fun experience. They had all kinds of photo ops at a gift shop, and the movie itself was just a revelation. It's so well done. The character of Ken, played by Michael Keaton, is astounding, you know. That's Ken's Dreamhouse. I have a room to try on clothes. Like, it's so good. Oh my God, it's so good. Barbie is fantastic in this. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, who has a new voice because Jim Varney unfortunately passed away. But a movie that was rescued from the ashes of the Pixar buyout. Because up until the Pixar buyout, you know, because Disney finally just succumbed and bought Pixar. But up until that point, Disney was moving ahead with its own Toy Story 3, created by Circle 7 Productions, the in-house animation team. And it involved Buzz Lightyear getting recalled and sent to the factory in China. And the other toys have to stow away and get to the factory to save him. There's been a few bits and pieces released of that version. No animation, but just story ideas and concepts. It was all completely shelved when Pixar came on board to the Walt Disney Company, and John Lasseter gave the reins to Lee Unkrich to direct. It is a stellar masterpiece of storytelling. You learn a lot more about the toys and their inside of what playtime means to them. It's almost a drug, and they'll do anything to get it. There's a moment where Andy's mom looks around Andy's room and sees it's all packed up, and she goes, "Oh, Andy." And every parent has that, of watching their kids grow up and grow out of toys and find new things in their life and eventually move out. And I remember seeing it that first night and loving lots of Hug and Bear and Big Baby and Bookworm and all the new characters. We had a lot of these toys. Between Josie and Austin, they had so many Toy Story toys. It was unbelievable. Josie still has the Mega Deluxe movie replica of lots of Hug and Bear that smells like strawberries. But the scene in the incinerator, you know what I'm talking about. It is terrifying. And when the characters hold hands and give in and say without saying, "We're okay dying if we go together," I think there were some of us in the theater who thought, they're really going to do it. Then, of course, things change. But the good news is we're treated to that fantastic end sequence where Andy gives the toys to Bonnie and passes on Buzz and Woody and the gang to somebody else. And when Buzz and Woody watch Andy drive away, there's more emotion in that sequence than some other movies starring entire human casts, where these guys, the animators, the storytellers at Pixar, they just got it. They got what it means to say goodbye. And it's very touching. And the only thing I would have done differently, had it been me, is I would have had Woody wave goodbye to Andy. And Andy see it, blink, and then shake it off. Just for a moment. And they came to life for Sid. Just a little bit to say, "We were there for you, buddy, the whole time." They didn't do that, but that's okay. Because I was totally okay with the ending. Having the same kid play Andy come back now that he's grown up. Toy Story 3 is a fantastic film. It expands the rules. You see that Potato Head can stick his face items onto a tortilla and still maintain his being. Great film. Can't recommend it enough. It's for a long time the number one animated movie of all time. So everybody agrees that this is one of the best films of. It might be the best film in the Pixar roster. I'm still a bigger fan of The Incredibles, but Toy Story 3 is right up close to there. Okay, next film is Cars 2. We didn't see Cars 2. By the time Cars 2 came out, Austin was done with it. Josie didn't care because it's not her thing, racing cars. I've never seen it. Don't care to. Doesn't interest me at all. I know that it happened somewhere around, what's his name? The voice of Lightning McQueen. The guy who talks like this. It's great to be here. I'm Lightning McQueen. It's great. He tried to commit suicide, and that sort of put the damper on that film for a while. So it does focus more on Mater, which is not my thing. I don't need a movie. Mater's great as a side character, but I'm not too keen on a full movie. We're talking, the other guy was Owen Wilson. I cheated and I looked it up. But Cars 2, no thanks. Next film is Brave. Brave came out in 2012 when Josie was 7. We went and saw this together. I took Josie to see it. We had seen the trailers for nearly a year. We knew that they had fired the original director. Another one where they fired the director, had somebody come in and mop up and fix it. Have you ever seen Brave? It defies description. It's supposed to be about a Irish girl who is going to be married to somebody that she's never met. It's a arranged wedding, and she's going to fight it because she's a strong, independent female. It made headlines because it's the first Pixar film to star a female character. But go watch the movie. It's about people who get turned into bears. It's so silly. It's a silly movie. Has my least favorite movie trope where somebody's hiding in a room and the other person doesn't see them, even though the person hiding is an 8-foot tall, 300-pound bear. You ever gone in a room and somebody's hiding behind a door and you just know that they're there? You can hear them breathing. You can feel the air being displaced. But in cartoons, that's all out the window. An 8-foot tall bear can be right behind you. You wouldn't have any idea. Brave is a mess. They should have junked it. They should have started over. The character of Midia, I think her name is, Meridia, she's a great character. She deserved better. She deserved a lot better than this mess of a movie. No desire to ever see Brave again. I remember in the theater, she goes to see like a witch, and the witch is going to cast a spell, and I'm like, the trailer didn't say that this was what the movie was about. They didn't tell me it was going to be about witches and people getting turned into bears. I mean, this is dumb. Brother Bear wasn't even that good, and at least it was mystical in some way. This is just, they turn into bears. All right, the next film, Monsters University. This is a prequel to Monsters, Inc. that nobody asked for. We got to see this before it opened at a sneak preview, thanks to one of our good friends. We had a good time watching the movie and seeing it before it came out. The problem is that it just tells a story that nobody cared about. I mean, that's the only problem. In the first film, there's a line about how Mike and Sully met, and that's great. And then they retcon it, and they met at university, and it doesn't really have a finale. Like, it's a strange movie. It's not a movie about the jocks versus the nerds. They're just cartoon monsters, and this movie exhausted me. It was an hour and a half, and it just exhausted me because it had so many of the same tropes of the school kids getting expelled and getting one last chance, and we just want to see Mike and Sully hang out. They should have made My Breakfast with Sully, where Mike and Sully just hang out and talk for an hour and a half. That would have been better than this Monsters University mess. And what's weird, too, is they calculated that if you were a certain age when you saw the first film, by the time this sequel came out, you'd be in college. So they were really catering to a specific audience in this film. The specific audience was the ones who had grown up, were now in college, and this spoke directly to them. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I get it. Everyone's got to make a buck. But it could have been better because we really like those characters. Mike and Sully are really fun, warm characters. They're more than animation and voice. They feel real. I mean, the guy's a big eyeball. The other one's a big blue furry Chewbacca thing. But they're so real. And again, they just deserve better than the sloppy prequel thing. They need a proper sequel where something happens and things change. At the end, they have to go find the now adult Boo who doesn't remember her monster. I mean, that would have been such a better script than... But what do I know? Because if you go to Disneyland, every college-age kid is wearing the Monsters University hat. It's the most common hat other than mouse ears that you see at Disneyland. It's shocking how many people are into this film, or at least saying that Monsters University, MU, is part of it. It's just weird. I don't have that, so I don't get it. So, okay, we're going to end it there because my voice is faltering. We will pick it up when we return next time with a huge discussion on the film Inside Out from 2015 that Josie and I saw together. Thanks for tuning in. I am Jeff Tucker. I am the voice. Check out my book, Your Friend in Time, How Back to the Future Changed My Life. It's available on Amazon.com. You can also check out my book series, The Sixth Key. It's about magicians and wonder and magic. There's 4 of those in that series. The Sixth Key, The Lost Station, The Infinite Backward, and The Ice Temple. I am hard at work on the final and 5th and final book in that series called The Tomorrow Machine. I can't wait to finish that and release it. If you're like me, you have to create. Life is about making things and creating, and it feels so good to put something together. Even it's something simple like this podcast, or something incredibly complicated like a 500-page novel. Pick your degree of creativity, but jump in with both feet. Be creative and support other artists. If you're on Facebook or other social media, Twitter, Instagram, share other artists' work. Share how, if they're having an appearance at an art show or a street fair, or they're trying something on a Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I love sharing artists' work on those social media sites. Well, the people I do are always shocked. I'm like, no, this is what it's for. You can use it to complain about things. I'd rather use it for positivity and sharing people's work and what makes people happy. There's so little of that right now, and every bit of it helps. I am Jeff Tucker, and this show is called 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
Good night, future boy!